And we continue Dirshu Mishnah Berurah. We're in the middle of Siman Ayin, discussing who is Chayiv and who is Potter in reading a Kriya Shema. And we're holding in Sif Gimel, in which the Mechaber begins as follows. HaKoines es habesula, someone who marries a woman that was never married, Potter mikriya Shema shleisha yamim. He is exempt from saying Shema for 3 days, if he did not consummate the marriage, if they did not fully have the Bia Rishayna, he is potter from Kriyisha. Why? Because he is tired, he is preoccupied, his mind, with doing the mitzvah of marriage. It says the Mechaber, don't make a mistake, that was only Bizman Rishaynim. But nowadays, it's unfortunately, even other people are not mechuvan, other people do not have appropriate kavana. Even one who reads a besula has to read Shema. And continues the Rambam. I like one Simon does in Shikar Yikra Kriyishma. So says the Mishnah Berurah over here, Sif Katan Yod Konis is Absula. Why? He's worried about how is he going to remove the Basulim, how is he going to fully complete this marriage. Masha Inkin Ba'almana Loitar, when Almana, a woman that was already married, he doesn't have the same level of Tirda. Therefore, there's no Patur even Bisman Rishayim, even Bisman HaGemara. Mikri Shmasev Katin Adalf, Uber Chaisel, Bua Din Mitvila, so too from davening, Kamosh Mavor, Kamam Siman, Kov Vav. For how long? For Shleish Yom, the first 3 days. If Katin Yubeiz explains the Mishnah Berurah, V'arba Leilois, 3 days and 4 nights. Going, for example, in Nasa B'yim Revi B'tzarayim, if you get married on Wednesday in the evening, Pater an Motzei Shabbos v'ad Bichlal. You're Pater until Motzei Shabbos, and including Motzei Shabbos, Ulpa'amim Yitzur Arba Yamim. Sometimes it can even be 4 days. How? If it's on Wednesday before one said Kriya Shema Shel Shachris, Pater Arba Yamim, there could be potentially a Patur for 4 days. For 4 days. So this is again is the halacha bisman harishayim, as the Mechaber taught us. However, and when is it? If continued gimel imloy asa ma'isa avla acher ma'isa. Once they consummated the marriage, once they had to be a gemura, full-fledged act of intercourse, she'enai tarid, he no longer is tarid, he no longer is preoccupied. How's he going to remove the bisulim? How's he going to consummate the marriage? Chayiv is obligated. From that moment and onward, even if he did not have a tashmish, he's still obligated to keep a shekvar over shlishi yom l'asamaisa. Once 3 days passed and he did not perform the act, he gives up. Gives up, meaning that he'll eventually do it whatever amount of time it takes, but his mind is not preoccupied with it. You're obligated to say Shema. Nowadays, you have to say Shema, you have to say the brachas, and even David. And if you don't, looks like you're a Baal Gaiv. Oh, you're so special that you always have kavanah. Looks like you always have kavanah, not like the rest of the world. So the halacha is that nowadays everyone has to read Shema even when they get married. They need tefillin. Ayin le'asin ma'amechasiv zayim Mishnah Berurah. Yikra kriyishma sivkata tezvav. Sham nisbar the shechrusa me'at kari misval. If one is a little bit drunk, you're allowed to daven. Since anyways you don't have a lot of kavanah, you're allowed to daven if one is slightly shaker. If you can't stand, you can't talk normally in front of the king, ein likrois. And you have to wait in likrois lispal. Add until until the wine leaves the system. We continue with Siftal. It says the Mechaber, if someone is dealing with a public matter, turning over the page, don't stop. You're dealing with Klal Yisrael. Don't stop to say Shema. Finish what you're doing, v'yikra, and then say Shema and Nishar is likros if there is time to read at that moment. So says the Mishnah Berurah Sefkatet Zayin Sarchei Rabin Meir. What is this talking about? She'ein sham mi she'ishtada aluchu l'kach in a paisik. That you're doing a job that no one else can do. If you could take a break, someone will take over for you, then you should take a break, say Shema, let the other person take over. But if you're doing something that no one else can do, the Isaac mitzvah, Isaac b'tzarchei rabim, is the din of a mitzvah Therefore, you don't stop. Va'afilu, and even continues the Mishnah Berurah, even if it's not that you're dealing necessarily with atzalos nafashis of the rabbim, but you're dealing with atzalos mamain, you're helping people save their money, still, says the Mishnah Berurah, it's going to be the same halacha that you're not obligated to stop, because it's called Tzarchei Rabim. Sivkotin Yud Zayin V'Yigia, Masha Mized Dim Ischul Be'Isser Achar Shegia Zman. Let's say you began when already was the Zman of Kriyishma, then Tzarch Lahafsik. Meaning it sounds like this is really a klal in all Isik B'Mitzvah Patim in a mitzvah. It's only if you began before the Zman, and then it continues through the Zman. But if you should have said Shema, you didn't, and you started something, then it sounds like you do have to stop. Pri Megadim is makel in all scenarios, and this is a very large point. Lo yafsik sivkatin yirches, says Mishnah Berurah, v'yachal lahafsik likra shema v'achal lachzav ligmar tzarech zibur b'loi terech yafsik. If you could stop, do what you need to do, and then go back, of course, that's what you should do. Even though you don't have to stop, you're allowed to stop. So you're allowed to stop. But rather, what should you do? If you can't, your yigmar is game. Of course, you should say at least the first pasuk bizmana, as we've seen so many times. The ikar mitzvah is Shema and Baruch Shem. Kizad davar kotzer, that takes a small amount of time. You could do it even while you're doing this sarchet tzibur. Sivkat and chaf, and then if there's time left, im nishar, im loy nishar mayas. What you do if there's no time left? Hari yasik b'mitzvah. You're a potter. Mekal malkam chayiv laskir yitziyas mitzrayim again. Mishnah Berurah reminds us that even if you miss the zman of Kriyishma, you didn't miss it all, because you still have a mitzvah d'oraisa of zichur yitziyas mitzrayim. If you lachish over zman Kriyishma, shdui mitzvah of neyatzmo, mitzvah sekol hayom. That's all day. Al ken your meiz a parsha yitziyas mitzrayim. So you should say parshas yitziyas mitzrayim. And kvar avarad zman shlichaloymer berach zamas v'yatziv. If it's already past zman tefillos, you can't say emes v'yatziv. So say a different berach parsha of yitziyas mitzrayim. Posher before b'simin nun chas. Mishnah Berurah. Vaynik b'on seven tzadi gimel seftal ini tefillah Mishnah Berurah sham. As we'll get there, Mirza Shem B'da. Te'im nimshach zman. Iskoi b'sar chesibar lach chatzayis. Let's say you're going all the way till after chatzayis. Shaz padel likuli amav and atfili yabatim from davening kol makam asal likuli amalachol. You can't eat. Kodim shem mekayim mitzvahs tefillin this manakalayim. Be careful. You still can't eat until you put on your tefillin. V'gam levi mach kosbi megadim simen beitaz also loy oz lachol kodim shem sal tilas mincha. Reminds us the Pri Megadim, there's another problem. That you can't eat until you daven mincha. Al kein shegia chatzi shash achar tzais after chatzais, yisbal tfilas mincha, v'achar yoicha, and then you could eat. Ein sefer machan in Yisrael, perek zayin. So important to realize sometimes, unfortunately, one misses his man, and misses his man. What you have to do is you have to remember, still, there's other halachas. You can't just throw it all in. So what do? You wait, you daven mincha at the first available time, which is half after chatzais, and then you can eat. And obviously you'll have tashlumim in such a, not necessarily would you have tashlumim, let's not comment on that right now, because if the din is Isaac b'mitzvah, potter min mitzvah, then you were potter. There's no tashlumim in such a scenario. The Mishnah Berurah was discussing that you would have to say Shema. The Mishnah Berurah is discussing the mitzvah of Yitzias Mitzrayim, the mitzvah of tefillin, which is the whole day. So that you certainly have to make up. And the fact that you're not allowed to eat before you daven. So even though you weren't able to daven, still says the Mishnah Berurah, you have to daven mincha. We'll just point out what would seem, and we're going to have to get there when we get to Elchais Tefillah, Mirz Hashem, that while you're Isaac, B'tzarchei Rabim, since you have a betur from Tefillah, it would seem like there's no problem eating at that moment, because the same betur from davening would allow you to eat, but let's get there. B'siyata dishmaya. Sif katan hey, sif hey, says the Mechaber. You're eating, you're in the bathhouse, you're getting a haircut. You're turning over the highs, or you're dealing with a judgment. According to the Rambam, finish what you're doing, and then say Shema. If you're afraid, maybe you missed the Zman. Upastak, Vikara, raise the Meshubach. What's the best? to stop and say Shema. That's Meshubach. Let's praise really. Ula Ravid Mafsik V'Kari Aval Pi Sheishos Likros Ayin Likaman Siman Reish Lam Midhei. So says the Mishnah Berurah over here. Sif Katan Chav Aleph Yoizik Ba'Achilo Man Nikra Eschalo. What does it mean that you start like Siman Reish Lam Beis Sif Beis? And this will probably be more relevant. This will be more relevant also at the nighttime Shema. Let's remind ourselves. If you began a Suda, you estimate. You'll have time to still read it afterwards. And that which the Machaber says, you're afraid maybe Ein Hashara, so maybe you're not estimating properly. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Kol Achroinim come out, all of them say the Ikr Talib Milsa Daraisa B'Ischul B'Atar B'Isr. Were you allowed to start? Vim came therefore Lefi Zeb B'Mlachai B'Chol Ilu Anyan Levan Me'Achilu. Everything else Im Ischal Koidim Amara Shachara. Everyone's wondering, what does it mean Ischul B'Atar? You're not allowed to start working before you daven. You're not allowed to get a haircut before you daven. You have to daven. Says the Mishnah Berurah, what's Ischal B'Atar? What's the case? You started all the way back before Amara Shachar. Then Ein Tzarich Lifsoi because you started B'Atar. Im Yishar Lo Shehus Achas Shigmar Likros Krish Mavlis Balo. That's called starting better. If you woke up and you started doing work, you started getting a haircut, etc. You weren't allowed to do that. You have to stop for Shema. That's a din daraisa. But if not for that, you don't have to stop for brachas and tefillah because that's not a din daraisa. Says the Mishnah Berurah, reminds us the Mishnah Berurah that's only if there's still going to be time level. And then of course you have to stop. Again, in a case that you weren't allowed to start. When it comes to eating, hey, this year late lips like take it sounds like you have to stop eating, boom, at Alohi. So if you don't miss sounds like even if you began eating early, when's it's relevant, Shavuos night, you could be eating, but it sounds like the Mechaber and Peitas that we'll get to, they have to stop at Aloisa Shachar. It doesn't help if you did not daven yet. Says Mishmur, even though you didn't daven yet, you're allowed to finish everything that you began. As we just explained, why? Because we just said you have to stop. You have to stop eating when it's time to daven. But at Aloisa Shachar already, because of everything else. So it comes out, if you started Beheter, everything else you could continue. If you started Be'isr, you started Malacha, you started a haircut, whatever it was, you stop for Kriyishma, and you let it daven afterwards. As we mentioned, another very relevant case will be kriyishma at night. Everything here is shaykh. You started eating and boom, it turns dark. It gets dark nowadays, 4 or 5 o'clock. So you started eating, you started work. What do you do when the zman comes? If you started within a half hour, which is the zman, which we know as kriyishma, as Chanukah is approaching, is the zman. You're not allowed to start something. Why you're not allowed to start something? Because that's already called samuch to the next mitzvah. Once the stars go out, you say Shema without the brachas. Then you can finish eating your shar davar. Then you're going to down. And from here we're seeing that if someone is in the middle of doing something and comes to Zman Kriyishma at nighttime, you started earlier, you're allowed to start at the Zman of Seis Chavim, you should stop and say Shema. Very relevant nowadays, someone can be sitting in his office, what should he do? Come Seis Chavim, he should pause for a few moments, say Shema, finish his work, and then he'll daven with all the brachas of Kriyishma later. Shos Likros have got to the Chaveg. We're afraid that you're going to continue and you're going to miss this man. Why? You don't have to stop for mincha. Why? As we've seen already, or more machmir. And finally, we're going to see in Sim Reish Lamed Esav Katan Chavav says Mishnah Berurah Tzalaymar Tishamavur Chelik Ben Hischel Be'atel Hischel Ve'eser as we'll see B'Siyat Tishmaya Ayin Shamoid. Very relevant halacha place. And Amir Tashem will pick up from Siman Ayin Aleph in the next year, B'siyata Dishmaya.